All right, we're rolling.
We're good to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey folks, Randy here with Dulin Cut Trim. So I am here with my friend from back in high school, but also is taking Instagram by storm, which is Nick Carlson from Mulch Mate, or maybe more specifically Dawson Manufacturing, home of the Mulch Mate.
That's right.
How you doing, man?
Good, bud. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good. Mm-hmm.
Because I don't actually know the answer to this one. Is how did you get started in the lawn and landscape business?
Well, it was kind of, I kind of fell into it. So I lived on, I still do, live on about 2.5 acres of grass, and my dad had this like piece of junk, MTD, ride-on tractor. It sat all cattywampus, and it was garbage. But we had it. I think he paid like $200 for it when we got it. I was working at Maggie Moo's Ice Cream in Annapolis. I was the very first employee, like first ever, right? And I think I worked there for the summer, and school was not my thing. Like, I struggled really bad in school. And so when school came around, I said, well, I think it's time for me to focus on school. I can't handle this. I can't do both. Let me go back to doing that. I was 14 at the time. Next summer rolls around. Well, okay, I need to get a job. I need to make some money. My dad's like, hey, I'm not paying for everything here. You need to, get your butt moving here. So I was like, well, what about taking the tractor and cutting grass like any other 15-year-old kid would do? And he goes, well, let's get you a logo design, a little flyer, 8.5 by 11, print it on an inkjet, and pass around the neighborhood. So that's what we did. And literally, I folded it. It said "Hi Neighbor" on it. So I kind of tricked people into opening it, like, "Hey, I'm your neighbor," but I really wasn't. It was just something to get somebody to open it. So I had all these little tricks on how to get people to open up this flyer. And I think it took 2 months before any customer called me. And my very first customer, I won't say his last name, but I'll say his first name, and his name was Ed. And the day I sold my company eventually, I still had that customer. I had my first customer from day one to the final day when I signed the papers.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that's a kind of really cool story we can get into later. But we started cutting grass. I picked up probably 10, 11, 12 decent-sized customers and started realizing, okay, I can make some money. At the same time, I was restoring this old Mustang, and I needed like $900 of parts to restore this car. I told my dad, I'm like, how am I gonna make this money? He goes, just keep your head down, keep working. It will come. By the time it was time for me to buy those parts, I had $3,000. And I'm going, what the heck? Like, this is amazing. Like, how did I make this?
And how old are you?
15.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't even believe myself. I'm like, how am I making all this money? Like, it was like, okay, just keep working, just keep going. It will come. And then all of a sudden, some lady asked me, she goes, hey, I need some mulching done. And it was like 5 yards of black mulch. I know the house. I know how much it was. I remember, I think I charged like $600 for it. Way undercharged. Had no clue what I was doing. Recruited somebody from our school. Said, hey, dude, I need a hand. Would you come out? I paid him in a hamburger. A 1 pound Fuddruckers hamburger is how I paid him on the first mulch job. And so from there, it snowballed into more maintenance and and then it just kind of grew and grew and grew. At the same time, I was racing stock cars, and the money from the business was paying for that, and then so on and so forth.
So that was when you were 15, and I know eventually you sold the business. How big did the business end up getting?
Over $1.5 million a year is what we made.
And how many guys did you have? And
if you averaged out right around the 16, 17 range, it would spike in the spring, of course. It would go up to 24 or 5. And then, summer months, we'd come off with some of those workers. And then, of course, in the winter, there wouldn't be a whole lot to do January, unless it was snowing, of course, which we recruited you for a few times. But, we kind of floated right around that 17 guy.
Okay.
Hardscape, irrigation. I dipped my toe in like fencing and decking, and kind of was like, I think we need to, focus on what you're good at. And so I backed off a lot of the contractor stuff.
So how long did you end up owning that business for?
16 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so while you were owning that business, you had a moment, which has kind of led you to where you are now. Can you tell us about that?
I'm assuming you're talking about Mulch Mate. Or
no, I was talking about when you. Yes, that's what I'm talking
Funny guy. So I had a lot of moments apparently. So I was at Park Tavern in Sonora Park, and it was January. I had just gone through the commercial bidding process on a bunch of properties, and out of I think we bid on 60. I think I got 18 or 19 properties, and we had thousands of yards of mulch to put down. It was ridiculous. I'm going, how in the world am I going to put all this mulch down? I don't want to hire 80 people. That's just a nightmare. And so I had known about mulch blowers. I knew about this thing called a mulch mule. It's like a trailer. And I went out and rented them and used them over the years, and I didn't like them. And the things that I didn't like about the blower was they're very, very finicky. They only blew, in my opinion, they only blew mulch. And every 1,000 to 2,000 hours, they'd wear out, and you'd spend 20 grand trying to fix them. And I went, man, that's, to me, with my mechanical background, I thought there's got to be a better way. And the reason I didn't like the Mulch Mule, the trailer version, was you had to stop and set up shop in one location because you had this 25-foot long trailer, you had this 20-foot long truck. That doesn't fit in most spots. And we had set up shop, and then my guys' wheelbarrow runs got longer, which is a big problem for me. And I thought, okay, this is ridiculous. What can we do about this? And so my aha moment was, why don't we take a salt spreader you put on the back of a dump truck and take the spinner off of it and put your wheelbarrow underneath that opening at this point and dump the truck right into that hopper. And that would make it, the mulch go in and go out and in the hole, and voila, perfect. Ultimately failed, but that is what led us to today.
And so you started working on that, and I remember actually a couple months after you guys started working on it in earnest, and I don't remember why I was at your house. I was probably getting something of mine fixed. I don't remember. But I was at your house, and you started telling me about this idea you had for sucking mulch off of a truck into a wheelbarrow. And I remember you telling me about it and even showing me some stuff you had going on in your garage. I don't want to spoil it, but... Well,
go ahead, have at it.
Mulch Mate pretty much got built in his garage.
And my basement.
And his basement. It got designed in his basement and built in the garage.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me about it and kind of giving me the idea, and I was like, Harbor Freight sells a debris unloader for $50, right?
Yep, it's true. It's true.
And Nick was like, yeah, but mine's better. No, all right, dude.
He was a doubter at first.
It's like, all right, well, good luck, buddy.
Uh-huh.
And so you kept working on it. So I'm curious if you could kind of tell us a little bit about that process.
So it basically starts off with each individual system and getting that particular system right. So it's strong enough to hold up to what you can throw at it. We start with the conveyor. Conveyors they seem simple, but they are this mythical unicorn that is so hard to get right. And we built the very first conveyor. I had it all welded by a friend, and I went and got metal and cut it myself, and it was a disaster. But I was just trying to prove the concept of, okay, if I take a conveyor belt that's roughly 7 foot long or as wide as your truck, if I put a bunch of mulch on it, can it just push the mulch off? And I have video of that test. It literally on the asphalt pad behind my shop, loading with mulch that we had from landscaping, pitchforked it on and just put power to it and watched it run off. It's like, okay, that's done. We know that can be done. Okay, now how are we going to get the mulch from the truck to the conveyor? And initially it was the whole dumping of the truck was going to run the mulch into this cabinet, and the cabinet was going to pivot and stay level as the truck went up. And I had all that figured out. Had a huge oops moment about 4 months in. The truck, when it lifts, the machine ended up on the ground. And so that doesn't work across the board universally. And so when you lifted it, you couldn't control the mulch, and B, the machine's on the ground, so it does you no good. So once we kind of were like, okay, that's not going to work, I already had the tarping system we have today run in the back of my mind. I had some drawings of it, but it was just on paper is all it was. And so we ultimately said, okay, how are we going to get this tarp to pull in? And so we went to work on this gearing system that I knew of a planetary, and I knew that you could take high speed and turn it into low speed, high torque. And so we just made a system, put it on the truck, broke it. Built it bigger, broke it again. Put it bigger, broke it again, until we ultimately found what we have today.
It's funny. I was looking through some of the old videos I have on my channel, and I came across one where you're actually welding the deck on my mower. There was some rusted out spots, and you welded some. And in that video, in the background, you can actually see Mulch Mate parts all over the place. Like the tarp, the roller that the tarp rolls up in, you can see that on there. You can see some of the metal cutouts that you did. And the thing that also I thought was really interesting and I wanted to convey is that these aren't like the parts that are on the Mulch Mate, even in the prototype phase.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you were running to Home Depot to get them.
Mm-mm.
I actually, it was not on purpose. If I'd known what you were going to do, I never would have come. But I actually went with you to this place. It doesn't exist anymore, I don't think, called the Foundry.
Yeah.
And it was a kind of like a maker space where you could, they had all the tools you could possibly want. You could just use them for a fee. And I went with Nick, and maybe I'll put something in here where you can kind of see what I'm talking about, where Nick took, I don't even know if this is even a part of the Mulch Mate now, but you basically took a big chunk cylinder that was about this thick, and you turned it into, I don't know what it was. But do you know what I'm talking about?
We still use it on the machine today.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
But it looks a lot prettier because I don't do it.
So it wasn't like Nick went out and bought this part. You spent 5 or 6 hours or whatever it was turning down this chunk of metal into the part that you were using. So in the beginning, it wasn't like, you were using suppliers and you were just throwing money at everything. Literally taking chunks of metal and turning them into parts. It was a fascinating thing to witness. And so I just wanted to make it clear. It's not like, you hear things on the radio where they're saying like, do you have an idea? Come to us, we'll help you design it, and we'll get it all taken care of. Like literally, you guys did everything.
Everything. Angle grinders, the Foundry had all kinds of tools that we'd rent, and I didn't know how to use any of them. And I just said, well, if that guy can do it, why can't I? And so I just took what I had and went for it. I had no funding, I had nothing.
So you're literally taking that business mindset where it's not that there's stuff you can't do, it's just stuff you haven't learned how to do
That's
yet.
correct.
It was a really cool thing. It was something I learned, unfortunately, watching Nick over the course of 4 or 5 hours. Because I don't know if you've ever watched somebody turn something on a metal lathe. It is unbelievably boring. Except for the fact that it could go really wrong, and at which point,
I think it did, didn't it?
Not when I was there.
No, okay. Well, I've had things explode. Thank God I have all my fingers still.
As the Mulch Mate's going forward, and I'm starting to see it more come to life, and I'm hearing some of the different specifications for it, and price points and things like that. And my first thought as a solo lawn guy is like, this is not geared towards me. Who because I'm not spending what you're asking for a mulch thing.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm not spending that on a Harbor Freight debris unloader.
Right. No, I get it. Trust me.
So who is this thing geared towards?
So it was geared towards the company that did anything over 500 yards of mulch a year, and hopefully a trickle of stonework here and there. Typically, those companies either are growing at a rapid rate, and one of those challenges when you grow is finding people. So we figured, okay, if you're doing over 500 yards or you're doing anything over $700,000 a year worth of revenue, this machine starts to come into play at that point. Once you cross over into the over 1,000 yards or over $1 million worth of business, the Mulch Mate really comes into its own. And internally, my thoughts were, okay, where's the money? Okay, where do I go? Where do I find the money? Well, the money was in that $1 million+ range. And so I thought, okay, I have a few products that I'd like to talk about and do all that kind of stuff, and one day we'll get to, but this machine is what we're coming out with. So where is my success going to be? Where I have the best opportunity? And so that's where we kind of geared it towards. And the pricing of the machine wasn't priced off the customer; it was priced off of the value that it brings.
Right.
So,
well, and to that effect, I mean, you've had some crazy stories come in.
I had another one today. I haven't even told you.
Are you willing to share?
Sure. So there's a guy in Louisville, Kentucky. He actually came to GIE this year, saw it for the first time there. He's been watching us on Instagram. But my guys were out there and they talked to him. They wanted to see to make sure that this guy installed the machine right, which ultimately he didn't. But that's why we're going to check it out, because we back our machine. The machine isn't even mounted correctly, and yet they did 4,000 yards of mulch since, I think, middle of February with no extra guys. Listen to this, no extra guys. He said he doubled the amount of mulch he put down in 2019 from 2018. He added no people, and when he was done in 2018, it was in June. Oh
my God.
June! So here it is, the end of April, right? He's a month and a half or two ahead of schedule. He's done double the work, and he's added no employees. What?
That's unbelievable.
I didn't even expect that.
And see, you know, that's the thing that drives me nuts about the Mulch Mate concept is how stupid simple it is.
Oops.
You literally, I mean, because like I hate to keep saying this because I don't want to be insulting, but like, you can buy this for $50 at Harbor Freight.
You think you can?
You think? Well, yeah.
I did.
Yours is much nicer.
I literally went to Harbor Freight and bought 2 of their kits and literally put it together, put it on my truck, and prototyped off of it. Because that's the concept.
Yeah.
I just made it massive.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
Because and like because I mean you know, even for somebody who doubted in the beginning, which was me.
It's okay.
You know, like
I forgive you.
Thanks, man. You see what the results guys are getting. There was another guy that when I was working here during the winter, there was another guy that started telling you about what happened with him. It was something like a job that normally takes 2 weeks.
Oh God. Yeah. So I think that was the one. I think he did 500 yards of mulch. I think this might be the one you're talking about. So he did 500 yards. I think he said it normally takes him 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And he did it this year with 350 yards because the augers fluff it.
Right.
He used 4 guys instead of, I think, 7 or 8. And I think he had it done in a few days.
I mean, that's obnoxious.
I can't make that up. That doesn't even make sense. Like, I can't even advertise that because you're not going to believe me.
No, it sounds nuts. If you told me, like, because I remember kind of crunching the numbers when, you know, you and I were talking about this, like, I don't know, 2 years ago or something. And I remember crunching the numbers, and the numbers were a little ridiculous as far as what the savings, time savings, and man-hour savings were. But even based on those numbers, once it gets out into the real world, the numbers are so much more outrageous.
They're way bigger than you think.
But, you know, the other thing that's fascinating, because I've been looking on Instagram, is that you see that people are... they're finding innovative ways to use it. Yeah, I saw that video. I think you reposted it of a guy walking along the side of a road. Yeah. What's going on there?
So that job, he's done that job for like the last 7 years. He charges the lady $22,000 to do that job every year. I needed more jobs like that when I was doing landscaping. But
just to clarify, what are they doing?
So they were taking topsoil and fixing the grade along the sides of the driveway. And this driveway's like, I think he said it was like 2,000 feet long. It's really long. It's up in northern Maryland, big properties. And this lady apparently has this issue all the time, and he fixes it for her. So he charged her $22,000. Normally it costs him, by the time it's labor and material and fuel and time, I think it's like $12,000 is what it cost him to do that job. And it takes a few days, and it makes a mess of the driveway because he gets skid loaders and all that, moving the dirt around. With the Mulch Mate, he used 7 guys. He did it in 4 hours, and it only cost him, I think he said, it was shy of like $3,000. He's like, dude, I paid for half my machine in a day on one job.
That is outrageous.
So he calls me, he goes, by the way, I'm buying 6 more machines. I'm like, good Lord, dude. Oh my goodness.
That is outrageous. And you know, speaking of Instagram and things I've seen on it, 'cause I already know the answer to this question, but how much are you spending on marketing this machine? Nothing.
Literally, it's all right here.
It's just you posting on.
It's just me.
Instagram and cool kids making videos and that is just amazing.
There's one thing we did spend money on, and I found this out a week or two ago was we were featured in Landscape Management magazine. We didn't approach them; they approached us. Typically, it's $8,000 per page to advertise in this magazine. Like, no, I'm not spending that kind of money. Like, I ain't got that kind of money. Right. So they said, look, how about this? We want Mulch Mate in our all-electric issue in January. How about $1,000 a page? And we'll give you a third spotlight in the normal magazine, not the electrical magazine. And we'll feature you in another month's magazine issue somewhere else. How do you say no to that?
You don't.
It's like God just like pops up and goes, here's a gift. Okay, I'll take it. Thank you very much. So money dollar-wise, that is the only thing that I think we've spent money on actual advertising. Everything else, the cost of the website, like hosting it, do you include that?
I don't know.
I don't. That's a cost.
I usually do kind of include it, but I mean that's nothing.
We built the entire thing here.
Yeah.
Like my dad did all that. I didn't do any of it. I just provided pictures and content and different things. But Just hosting it, whatever, that wasn't much. A couple
Right.
$100.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it.
That is just insane.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's in the future for Dawson Manufacturing? Are you guys, you're focused on the Mulch Mate right now?
Oh, yeah.
What are we doing?
So as of today, this moment right now, we're doing everything we can to hear our customers, understand, what things they like, what things they want to improve upon, and so we dial in the machine as best we can. We don't you want to be a master at like a few things and not a jack of like too many, because then you're not a master of them. You're not a master of any, right? So we've got a few things that we want to improve on Mulch Mate. We have actually a list in engineering right now of the DS2000 of all the upgrades we want to have. We want to have like backup sensors, and there's a few things I can't talk about, but like super cool, innovative things. Like the machine will actually have GPS in it, and you'll be able to track what it's doing. That's all I can tell you. Okay, how it does it, you're never gonna find out unless you buy one. So there's some really cool, innovative things there. We have some patents issued for a few other products that are coming. More guys geared like you, maybe not you in particular, because you're like focused on grass, but guys that are doing some landscaping, hardscaping. I've got some products that will just knock your socks off, I think, at a crazy cool, good price that it'll be very easy to obtain.
Yeah, Nick, I saw on Instagram recently, posted a very ominous post in his story. It was him in front of a mower, and it said prototyping. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, it's fun. I like messing with people.
So just to wrap it up, Nick, because most of the people that watch my channel are smaller guys. They're either solo or they're just starting out in the lawn business.
Sure.
Do you have any advice you'd like to pass on to them?
So your journey is going to be rough. You're going to have bumps on the road. I had a young man here over the weekend, and he picked up on something I told him, which was interesting that he picked up on it, but it was cool. You're going to have bumps. Hit them as hard as you can, as fast as you can to get over them, and just move on. I was talking to my wife on the way over here, and it's like your failure should be your fuel, not what gives you fear, right? So a lot of times guys kind of freeze in the moment when they have an issue. Don't freeze. Use that as your fuel. Push yourself harder, faster, further, and know where you're going. Like when I started my business, I knew that I didn't want to be the guy cutting grass. I didn't want to break my back. I didn't want to, one of the things I had a fear of was getting skin cancer because I was always out in the sun, right? And I thought, okay, one day I just don't want to be that guy. It wasn't that I wanted to be the boss. It was never about that. So you combine that, and then my final rule of thumb would be, I just lost it. Where'd it go? I have no idea where it went. Do not chase the money. Do things the right way and do your best at it, and the money will follow. If you're chasing money all the time, it actually clouds your vision. Leave that alone. Worry about doing your job the best you can, taking care of your customer, cover all your bases, have your contracts in place, cover your butt where you can, because there are bad people in this world, and I'm sure you've dealt with them. I know I've dealt with them. Do your job right. The money will handle itself. Period. That's my 2 cents.
I thought you were going to say subscribe to the Dulin Cut Trim YouTube channel, but
Do that too.
Well, Nick, I think this went pretty well,
Yeah,
man.
it was excellent, man. Thanks
a lot.
I really appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Good.
That's it.
Cool.